Going on, my fellow A-plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode. It is I, your Morphinominal host, as always, Adam Perez, certainly coming through, ladies and gentlemen, as we're here to go ahead and get into Zenkaiger episode number 7 today. And happy Toku Tuesday as well here from A-plus Morphinominal. As earlier this morning, you wind up getting a Gokaiger reaction video. Now you're getting your Zenkaiger, and of course, you definitely have Kamen Rider Saber review to certainly look forward to as well, ladies and gentlemen. But it's good to finally get back into the mood of Zenkaiger. You guys know I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of the previous episode that we wind up having, so I really needed this weekend to kind of give me an injection of just more energy and more to certainly look forward to when it comes to this particular series. And I got to admit, with an excellent episode number 7 that we just had, and the two-parter special for the Zenkaiger spinoff titled Zenkai Red Great Introduction, got the opportunity to watch the two-parter special. Also went ahead and did a review for you guys as well, which is currently up on our YouTube page. I really enjoyed both of those parts as well, so I feel like I've just been a 3-hit combo from Zenkaiger has really got me back in the mood to go ahead and dive back into this particular series. So really thankful, really needed it to go ahead and kick off my week, and really just kind of any case of the Mondays, not here, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm definitely eager to go ahead and get into episode number 7 of Zenkaiger as we finally get the reveal of Stacy, aka Stacaesar, is the name of this character here this week. I actually really dig it, and I'm really glad that they continued along with the hinting of the mysterious character in episode 8 and gave them a lot more screen time here in episode 7. Still a lot of questions to certainly ask, to certainly say the least, but I really loved the introduction in here. I thought the costume was just as clean as can be. The morphine sequence in here, the henshin sequence, I thought was pretty impressive. Just the idea of like injecting yourself with this Sentai gear, like dark energy, and watching it kind of come over your entire body into your henshin sequence. Pretty cool, smooth, pretty cool stuff. Really, really smooth. I absolutely loved what we wind up getting in here. Some fantastic action as well. So Stacy really just impressed me overall. And one of the things that I continue to be impressed about when it comes to Stacy is really just what his past is certainly like. I mean, we clearly got to see in the previous episode that he is the son of Barashitara. In one of the conversations that we even see here with Kaido, he's actually partially human, and maybe, so I'm assuming half human, half Toji Tendo. How that works, I certainly have no idea, but I would be interested to see who Stacy's mother is at the end of the day. I mean, is there a connection to Kaido? Is he like Kaido's long-lost brother, or whatever the case may be, from another parallel, another dimension? I wouldn't go so far as to say that as of yet, but you certainly never know. It is one of those things where even in this episode, you get to see Stacy mention the idea of wanting to become stronger than him. I'm not assuming he's mentioned Bokawas. I don't think he's talking about Ijiru. I'm thinking he's definitely talking about Barashitara, if that is in fact his father. It seems as though there may be some sort of animosity, some family angst kind of going on here. Barashitara, for the most part, doesn't really seem, I don't want to say to not care about his son, but you know, when he kind of questions Ijiru about why did you select Stacy to be the one to utilize this Geartlinger of his, he mentions the idea that he wanted to kind of use this as an experiment on somebody that's at least as close to a human as possible. I guess Ijiru's mostly used to utilizing the Toji Tendo and never really having a human around to kind of utilize some of his, new creations and things like that with. So the fact that Stacy was open to the idea of working alongside with Ijiru as sort of a experimental soldier, as Barashitara puts it, I find it pretty interesting. And the fact that Bara references the idea of like, well, at least that's a good use of the kid sort of thing, almost like he never even really considered or thought about his child up until this point, you know what I mean? Or the idea that he doesn't really care about what happens to his son, even if this is just all an experimental process, you know what I mean? Almost like he's cannon fodder, like, okay, I guess we can just kind of use this kid here or there. And just seeing the way that he talks or just kind of looks at his son, I find really, really compelling. So the Stacy and Barashitara stuff is interesting to me, especially when Kaido asks him, like, are you part of the Toji Tendo? He almost just kind of dismisses his sort of connection with it, almost like his teaming up here with the Toji Tendo was an ends to a means, not so much because of the fact that he represents what the Toji Tendo stand for, but just that he's trying to accomplish something for himself, and if the Toji Tendo can help him get there, he'll definitely take full advantage of it. So I continue to really enjoy Stacy. Very much dismissive, doesn't really have time for that, right? I got no time for that type of thing. Like, I love the beginning of this episode where we see Kaido just excited to see Stacy once again and wanting to do proper introductions, and Stacy just kind of walks off without even any further notice, right? Don't really having nothing to do with Kaido. So you clearly get to see how dismissive he is, how focused he is. But I also did love just the small little comedy aspect of seeing him and Kaido try and outrun each other, right? You're following me, no, you're following me, and then coming to realize that we're actually going to the same location once they actually start finish running type of thing. So I did get a little bit of a humor out of that as well. But Stacy, aka Stacaesar, has definitely impressed here in his very first outing, to say the least. But I'm kind of curious to know what you guys think in regards to Stacy as well. So I am kind of curious to see how that's going to turn out for him. And I will say this too, Ijiru definitely came through in this episode. It's one of those things where I was kind of curious as to what Ijiru was working on in the previous episode, but he definitely has come out and created this Geartlinger that not only gives Stacy his abilities, but also we have purple gears now, which I'm assuming, based off of how Stacy used them, is the idea to create evil versions of the Super Sentai teams, and not only the teams, but also the mechas as well, which we get the opportunity to see Stacy calling forth the mechas based off of the Zenkaiger Kikainoids in past Super Sentai seasons. Like the very first group that he winds up actually calling when it comes to the mechas, I thought it was really cool that our Kikainoids, like our Zenkaigers, are almost looking at themselves across the way, right? Almost looking at a mirror, realizing like where your influences come from for your costume, and now having to face it. I thought that was actually pretty cool for them to be at least the first set of mechas, but you quickly come to see at the very end that Stacy definitely has more mechas that he can certainly utilize. It's like an entire army of evil Super Sentai mechas that they have to certainly go up against. So I'm really fascinated to see what's going to happen for the second part or going into next week's episode, because for me, while I really enjoyed the action, the Zord action just absolutely floored me, man. I continue to just really love what they're doing. And one of the things about this episode that I really appreciated too was really the lack of as much green screen as we're sort of used to seeing them, right? Like, I feel like we've seen the Zenkaigers facing off against some of the Kikainoids, and they're in front of this green screen where it's just white and just a ton of explosions, right? Even when we're dealing with a particular, whether it be Trash World or Ice World or wherever they are when it comes to these monsters, sometimes in their Zord battles, it's a lot of green screen, if you will, a lot of new set design and pieces. This felt just more like traditional, old school Super Sentai battles, whether it be them fighting in civilian mode or just out in public or in their mechas. I thought the battles were spectacular. Not even just our Zenkaigers in their combos, but also when they're fighting individually against these gigantic mechas. So I thought that the Zord battles were just incredible in this week's episode. And on top of that, what I think even makes it cooler is the fact that we get to see our Zenkaiger Kikainoids with a new weapon that they can utilize while they're in their giant form. I think this was the Geartlinger Bazooka. And I've mentioned this before. You guys know I love like gigantic blasters, bazookas, busters, whatever you want to call it, whether it be combining your weapons together or you just form this gigantic thing where everybody has to hold it or put their power towards it. I'm a sucker for bazookas. So the fact that we have a giant Geartlinger in here, I thought it was really cool. Seeing Jurin like hype up Goan to go ahead, like Goan's back here with this big, like just turning it, getting it all powered up and stuff. I thought it was just a really cool weapon that they wind up debuting in here. And not only that, but like just its effects alone, like its final strike, the idea of like the beam literally teleporting through all four of the mechas before it was finally destroyed. Just epic stuff. Definitely WTF towards the end of this episode that had me floored. So I really love the fact that despite my displeasure in episode number 6, that Zenkaiger came back and just punched me in the face and was like, "You didn't like that episode, Adam? Take this, boy. We still got a ton more, certainly, for you to definitely enjoy." This probably wind up becoming one of my favorite episodes of the season so far. So really, really enjoyed that aspect when it comes to the mechas, the Toji Tendo, and especially Stacy here this week. One of the other characters that we definitely have to talk about in here that really jumps out to me is Goan. It is one of those things where you guys know my frustration with this guy. Sometimes when I watch him on screen, it's almost just infuriating to me, just how he comes across. The idea of just kind of disliking his own kind so much and only seeming to kind of care about the humans, right? We've already seen Goan and Jurin kind of mix it up a little bit very early on in this season. Almost feels like every episode there's some sort of bickering or banter or kind of going back and forth. And I think it's even more startling as to how much they argue when even one of the bystanders, like one of the customers in here, is like, "Oh, they're at it again," right? When you don't have Yi-chan and you don't have Kaido around, right? They really get at each other's necks. So it's almost like kids, like sibling rivalries almost, right? The fact that when their parents are around, they don't really act like that, but you leave them alone for a minute and they just at each other's throats. You know what I mean? The fact that Yi-chan literally has to come down and scold both of them, it gets infuriating. And sometimes for me, it feels like it's a little bit too much of the idea of them really just tackling each other all the time. But I will say this, it is one of those things where, you know, I think for me, it's really hard to wrap my head around the idea of just kind of disliking your own kind. And not so much that, but the idea of him being so dismissive towards the rest of his team, right? Calling them helpless, calling them obnoxious. You know, and it's one of those things like, you know, you're a jerk when Sichan, the bird, is even like calling you out on the way that you're kind of like talking to people and things like that. And even though I felt like this episode was sort of, I don't want to say giving Goan a reason, or at least trying to explain why he likes it, right? Because I think Yi-chan comes up to Jurin and she knocks him on his chest a couple times and is like, you know, he's trying to protect you guys or whatever the case may be. And then he's talking to Kaido, and he references the ideas that they're a little bit tougher than humans. You know, I get the idea of maybe Goan having that mindset of that being okay, of protecting humans over Kikainoids, because of the fact that they're tougher, right? They can deal with a lot more pain and punishment. So the fact that humans are a lot more fragile, I can see his emphasis on wanting to help them out more, right? But I don't think that necessarily explains the idea as to why you're so tough, or like why you're such an asshole to the rest of your team, right? Even though they do have tough outer exteriors, it doesn't mean the idea of you calling them obnoxious and helpless means that they should be able to take it, because they are in fact Kikainoids, right? Like you clearly have a mind, you clearly still have feelings, you clearly can still get under people's skins. So I don't necessarily know if this was an explanation as to why he treats his Kikainoids the way that he does, but it is at least a really interesting glimpse into sort of his mindset. Trust me when I say there's a lot more from Goan that I am going to need explained, and more come to Jesus moments with this character to fully understand why it is that he doesn't like his kind the way that he certainly does. I mean, and trust me when I say it, there are people in real life that I know that are just like this, that are either one particular race or one particular color that for some reason definitely has a prejudice against sort of their own kind, you know, like really holds a lot of animosity to their own people, which is hard for me to kind of wrap my head around. So there is a sense of reality in which Goan is definitely having these feelings. But I will say this, while this was frustrating for me to see what Goan was going through, I thought it was actually really enlightening in the sense of seeing his struggle with having to take down Stacy, right? The one thing that I do appreciate about Goan is the fact that he does have an appreciation for things that are living. Again, not just humans, but birds, creatures, dogs, whatever the case may be. If you breathe, if you have life, he definitely wants to go ahead and sort of protect you. And so I thought it was really interesting that the dilemma comes in here with the idea of, do I fight former Super Sentai teams who are human, and do I dare lift a finger against somebody like Stacy, who is also a human? Regardless if you're good or bad, he clearly cherishes the importance of life, and I think that's a really great mindset to have. And I do think that for Goan to be able to struggle in this episode and have somebody like Kaito understand his point of view, and then also kind of Kaito doing his own research in a sense of, right, what can I find out about the situation that we're in that will help Goan get over his hesitancy to go ahead and fight back against the villains, right? Because he's had no problems taking out the other Kikainoids, because there has been that sense of, I don't have to worry about protecting you, right? You're just another machine at the end of the day. But now that we actually have human villains facing off against him, it's a very different situation for him. And so I really love the fact that this was actually brought to our attention, and really getting to see a little bit more into the mindset of Goan. So really loved his struggle, really appreciated his dilemma, really appreciated his hesitancy to just outright harm somebody, if you will. And I do love just how much he kind of relies on Kaito. The idea of Kaito saying, these are not the Super Sentai teams, right? These guys are certainly fakes. And then when you come to clearly find out that, if Kaito's facing off against Stacy, there's clearly for a very good reason here, right? So this definitely gives sort of Goan that permission that he needs to. While he is all about protecting life, he definitely has to make some sort of exceptions here. You know what I mean? So I thought it was great. Still frustrating of a character to me, because I hate the way that he treats his own kind. But I do like the dilemma we found himself in. And if there is any character in this series that I'm really looking forward to see his growth, and that I'm open-minded about, in the sense of, I'm going to give this character a try, because I do feel like his struggle is very real and is very deep, and I want to see how he overcomes that. He doesn't, I guess he doesn't necessarily clearly hate everybody, right? Because of the fact that when Kaito talks to him on the bench, he kind of even technically refers to them as friends, and I guess it's because of the fact that they have the same motivations, at least, right? They also believe in the sense of protecting life and protecting humans. So that's, I guess I'll get along with them, since we do have the same goals in mind to that certain extent. So I am very interested to see how Goan grows from here, to say the least. But really enjoyed this episode from front to back. I really did. One more quick honorable mention in here. We did see the usage of the Goan Ranger, powers in here, which I thought was really cool, especially seeing our Zenkaigers use that ability against the Goan Ranger team itself, aka Wild Force. So I thought that was pretty neat to see them get down, and then even seeing them utilize the Go Ranger final attack, if you will, against the Go Ranger team. I thought that was cool, and even just the special effect of having the eraser knock them in their head, and you see the eraser swipes kind of evaporate them. I thought that was pretty cool too. But I gotta say, I know we talked about the impressive action when it comes to the Zord battles. The action in general when it comes to just the Zenkaigers really do continue to impress me, guys. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I've said this a bajillion times, and I'll probably say it every time it impresses me when I watch Zenkaiger. But the idea and the ability for them to move the way that they do, despite some of just the big bulkiness of their costumes, floors me. Like when Goan is evading, and then he drops down to the ground, and he activates his Geartlinger to go ahead and I believe they used the Alien Ranger gear to go ahead and vanish like ninjas. The fact that he's able to do that, seeing some of the rolls, some of the takedowns that they have, I think he does this leg sweep that winds up taking them both to the ground. I'm thinking, I think Jurin does a standing drop kick. How do you move in these big bulky costumes? They just do it with ease, and it's so impressive each and every time that I watch them. I mean, you would think that some of these human Super Sentai characters would move better than them, but I feel like like the Zenkaigers just are able to keep up with. It doesn't matter if they're Toji Tendo, big design creatures, or even just humans. They have no problem keeping up with them in fights. And so I've loved how the fight choreography, maybe their second unit director, I love how the action's being shot, and really just showcasing their abilities in these big bulky costumes, just utilizing movements so perfectly well, man. I continue to be floored by it. But listen, guys, from top to bottom, one of my favorite episodes this season, the fact that it's going to be a two-parter and we have more to dive into with these characters in next week's episode, has me hyped, guys. So I'm really looking forward to it. But listen, at the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. I certainly want to go ahead and know yours. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. If there's any characters stuff that I might have missed that you want to further talk about, any storyline details that I might have missed or you guys caught and want to go ahead and cover even further, let's feel free to go ahead and continue this discussion in the comment section box, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we certainly will be back next week for you guys with a brand new Zenkaiger review as well. And then, of course, as always, every Saturday, definitely go ahead and join us for our live episodes of A+ Morphinominal, going live every Saturday at noon Central Time, ladies and gentlemen. But other than that, that's going to go ahead and do it for us here today. But thank you very much for certainly joining me. Enjoy the rest of your week. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to our channel and you love our content, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you know when we drop brand new videos. And of course, if you love that content, that big thumbs up, hit that like button, because it certainly does go a long way in allowing YouTube to recognize our work. But until next time, guys, do me a big favor, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, keep it A+. Full throttle, nonstop. I'll talk to you later. Bye.